how do you actually win those first customers? You get some real revenue because you need that revenue to pay that team.
Well, I think that in my experience, you need to stay very, very focused. You need to start small, and these ideas that I hear sometimes as I'm coaching startups about kind of what I call boiling the ocean,
Right.
It's a hard thing to do. So it's you
Takes a lot of
gotta
energy.
even if you have a solution that has potential widespread interest, like with Mocha, we started with a smaller beachhead,
Sure.
and I found that the riches are in the niches. You know, you have to establish that beachhead, build trust, demonstrate proof of concept, and work with your ecosystem partners to establish that initial traction.
Yeah, so glad you mentioned ecosystem. You know, that's really important to me. I think what I find when we talk about ecosystems, a lot of people use it as a buzzword. What I try to do in my work is lay it out on paper, deconstruct it. Most people don't do that. They just sort of talk vaguely about the ecosystem. So I think it would help our viewers today if you could just deconstruct the industry a little bit. I think that's something that would really give them a tool they could use.
Yeah, I think that what I've found, and I'm not big on academic studies, because it can sometimes be ivory tower. But I've found, I read a lot. I think there are good ideas out there. Some of the books you read, they don't really have that much value. But there are certain things like two books by Michael Porter I think are extremely valuable. One that talks about the value chain. You don't need to read the whole book. It's about that thick. But look at what the value chain is, and that helps do the deconstruction you're talking about. Right. In his other book, he has industry structural analysis, where you look at the 5 forces that affect an industry structure.
Right.
And that's something that I'm a big advocate of. In terms of pay TV, clearly pay TV operators are not startups. It's an established industry, a mature company, but they can be entrepreneurial and innovative. And in fact, there's been innovation in the last 10 to 15 years within the pay TV industry. And there's pockets of people inside these big companies that are very innovative.
Sure.
And it's a matter of identifying those people.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're in the CTO's office, sometimes they might be in technical operations. And there's people also in the OEMs that are highly innovative. So I think as a couple examples of this, AT&T, Uverse, and Verizon Fios, those were basically pay TV startups that happened in the last 10 to 15 years. Yeah. Now those are huge companies, but
they were acting like startups.
But they were acting like startups in terms of those initiatives.
Right.
They were already competing with the cable MSOs in telephony and in high-speed broadband, but they didn't have the highest revenue per subscriber service. So they had, talked about buying satellite companies and such, and now AT&T has bought DirecTV.
Sure.
But they exhibited, a level of innovation there. And in fact, the first deployment of Mocha was in the Verizon Fios deployment. Yeah. Even though some of the first customers we were talking to were EchoStar, Dish Network, and Comcast. Because you sometimes need to work with a new entrant in order to get things going.
Well, my observation from the outside was you actually were taking your own advice. You were starting with those new entrants. Really, the satellite guys were sort of on the out at the time. Yeah. And you were giving them something that that their competitors didn't have, which led to, I think, didn't the satellite people have multi-room TV first, right? And then that sort of put the pressure on the other ones to innovate. So that's a point I want to get to.
But what we're starting to see now is more momentum around streaming sports services as well. Yeah. There's two companies, New Lion, it's NEU Lion, not like New Lion Entertainment, but they have a streaming service. They recently bought a company in town, Divx, that has the encoding technology used for streaming. And Major League Baseball has a technology arm called MLBAM. They also have a streaming service. So I think we're going to see continued innovation, and a lot of these things will cross over to traditional pay TV, but it's just unlikely that the pay TV operators are going to be, the innovators. And this kind of brings up a key point. Competitive forces outside the industry and new entrants initially catalyze most of the innovation with the incumbent pay TV operators.
Yeah, isn't that funny how competition actually can spur these sometimes, and I hate to be stereotypical, but these sort of bureaucratic, big, lumbering companies. And I'm not trying to be personal. It's just when a company gets to be a certain size, that's what happens, right? And so it's really funny how how real competition coming from outside the industry sometimes is like a stick in their eye, and then they have to wake up and they got to get going, or they die.
Yeah.
Right?